You guys were right once again. You guys were right once again. And the more I look at these stats that are being highlighted by ESPN and national media, the more I realize that they are excluding Caitlin Clark and erasing her from history once again.
Well, Olivia, you are making history in the WNBA, not just for a rookie, but for any player. The fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists.
The fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists. Wow, this is my first time hearing that, actually. So Holly didn't even say it was just for rookies. She said it was for all time. Oh my goodness. They're kind of erasing Caitlin Clark from history to prop up others. They tried it with Paige, Angel Reese, now Olivia Miles. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know what they say, not providing full context is just as good as lying. But I'm just here to let you guys know that it's definitely an agenda going on right in front of our face.
The evidence was already there, backed by receipts, dates, and side-by-side numbers that couldn't be ignored. Now, let's examine the full sequence, because ESPN Insight's treatment of Caitlin Clark's statistical legacy reveals a noticeable pattern. From June 29th through July 22nd, ESPN Insights published 4 fastest player graphics centered on Olivia Miles, each presenting her as a record holder within less than 4 weeks.
I apologize for not looking into this sooner. There are 2 standards being applied to Caitlin Clark's rookie season and Olivia Miles' rookie season. Olivia Miles' rookie season versus WNBA all-time history.
Here's the detail that makes the entire situation even more striking. Every one of those graphics relied on a different statistical threshold. These weren't minor adjustments or barely noticeable changes. The benchmarks were fundamentally different from one graphic to the next, making the contrast impossible to overlook.
Ladies and gentlemen, you guys remember last time when Holly Rowe and Olivia Miles, the last time they got in front of a microphone, and Holly Rowe said Olivia Miles was the fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists, and we debunked that, and we found that to be false. That record actually belongs to Caitlin Clark.
Instead of simply shifting the goalposts, they seem to construct entirely new ones each time. Consider how genuine statistical tracking is supposed to work. A credible outlet chooses a category and applies the same standard consistently, game after game and season after season, regardless of whether the numbers support its preferred narrative. That consistency is the responsibility. Yet ESPN Insights repeatedly switched to a different category whenever the previous one no longer delivered the result they wanted.
Well, I did some more digging with the facts that ESPN are posting on social media, talking about after games, about Olivia Miles' stat lines, and I started to realize that they were excluding Caitlin Clark from history. This is insane what's happening, and it's going unaddressed by national media, the sports industry. I don't know how much longer this can continue before someone steps in.
That isn't genuine record tracking. It's more like searching until the desired record appears. And the specifics make that distinction even clearer. On June 29th, ESPN published a graphic announcing Olivia Miles as the fastest player to reach a combined 350 points and 100 assists, creating yet another carefully defined benchmark around her performance.
Olivia Miles is the fastest player to 350 plus points and 100 assists, passing Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark. Now I said, you know what? Let me do some research into this as well, because if that stat was wrong on national TV, what else could be wrong that they're telling us?
The first red flag is what the graphic leaves out: rebounds. Over the same number of games, Caitlin Clark had 104 rebounds compared with Olivia Miles' 91, meaning Clark comfortably clears that benchmark while Miles doesn't. So the rebound category disappears altogether, leaving a statistical combination where Clark no longer holds the advantage. The benchmark was shaped around the result they wanted.
So I realized something. I said, 350 plus points and 100 assists is interesting. But when we looked at the first one, Holly Rose said, one more time, rebounds was included. One more time, Holly.
Any player, the fastest to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists.
300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists. But when you look at this stat line right here, it says 350 plus points and only 100 assists. What happens to 300 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists? Why are we now looking at 350 points and we can't even find the rebounds anymore?
There's another detail that makes the shifting standards even harder to overlook. If 350 points was the chosen benchmark, why not pair it with 150 assists? Miles wasn't close to that mark either. Instead, the threshold was raised to 350 points while rebounds were removed, keeping Caitlin Clark out of the comparison. Clark had 104 rebounds and was already eligible for that milestone, while Miles had not yet reached 100. The standard only seems to move when it protects the narrative, never when it challenges it. Then, 2 weeks later on July 13th, another graphic appeared with a completely different setup, for 100 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists. Suddenly, rebounds were back. ESPN Insights declared Olivia Miles the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 400 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists. Why bring rebounds back now? Because by July 13th, Miles had crossed 100, so the previous obstacle was gone. The category could now include it again. Rebounds were excluded when that helped Miles and restored when it worked in her favor. Then came July 22nd, with another new threshold, 500 points and 150 assists, while rebounds disappeared once again. By that point, Caitlin Clark had 150 rebounds, while Olivia Miles had fewer than 110, leaving a significant gap. So rebounds were removed from the equation for a second time. ESPN Insights then presented Miles as the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 500 points and 150 assists, doing it in just 26 games. The points threshold had finally become consistent, but suddenly the assists requirement jumped to 150. And the record comparison included Paige Buchers at 28 games and Caitlin Clark at 29, with Miles supposedly breaking both marks in 26. The constant reshuffling makes the whole sequence increasingly difficult to ignore. Looking at the exact checkpoints ESPN used to build these graphics makes the pattern even clearer. At 19 games, Miles had 356 points to Clark's 308, but Clark led in rebounds, 104 to 91, and assists, 128 to 109. At 21 games, Miles had 393 points, 101 rebounds, and 118 assists, while Clark had 300-plus points, 119-plus rebounds, and 149-plus assists. By 24 games, Clark had passed 400 points with 142 rebounds and 188 assists, while Miles had 458 points but only 112 rebounds and 141 assists. At 25 games, Miles reached 490 points, 120 rebounds, and 149 assists, while Clark had 421 points, 145 rebounds, and 194 assists. The story stayed consistent. Clark remained ahead in rebounds and assists, and whenever that gap became, then Holly Rowe made the issue even more interesting on an ESPN broadcast, saying Miles had reached 300 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists, and describing it as not just for a rookie, any player, implying an all-time WNBA achievement. The problem: Caitlin Clark already held that mark. ESPN's own broadcaster, on ESPN's own platform, effectively Meanwhile, those 149 assists still left rebounds out of the equation, because including them would have created another obvious comparison with Clark. And yes, rebounds would have been excluded too, allowing another claim that Olivia Miles passed Caitlin Clark. That silence matters. When an Olivia Miles game ends without another graphic, it can suggest Clark still owns the record, or that the category needs to be adjusted, cherry-picked, or stripped of another stat before Miles can be elevated. Meanwhile, when Clark reached comparable marks at 19, 21, 24, and 25 games, ESPN Insights offered no comparable coverage. Same data. While ESPN's graphics department keeps reshaping thresholds, Miles isn't the villain here. ESPN Insights is. These graphics matter because casual fans trust them. People who don't follow box scores closely, who catch highlights or stat cards while scrolling, can easily see a social media post and accept it as fact. They aren't wrong for trusting a major platform. That is precisely why the situation matters. With ESPN's enormous reach and authority, its statistics can shape how fans remember women's basketball. Yet instead of simply presenting the record as it stands, the information appears to be repeatedly reframed to support another story. Clark's legacy isn't threatened because she lacks production. It's threatened when the information surrounding that production is repeatedly reshaped. The inconsistency is what made the pattern visible. If ESPN Insights had chosen one threshold and stayed consistent, there might have been little to notice. Instead, the standards changed 4 times in under 4 weeks, leaving behind receipts that are difficult to ignore. And that raises a much bigger question. How many other fastest to posts or milestone celebrations were built around a preferred outcome first, with the statistical threshold created afterward. After seeing this sequence, it becomes much harder to view ESPN Insight's statistical coverage of the league in exactly the same way. The methodology has now been exposed, and that is where accountability begins. Fans were the ones who noticed the inconsistencies, compared the numbers side by side, tracked the game counts, and saved screenshots of the posts. While mainstream sports media missed the pattern, regular fans came prepared with spreadsheets and receipts. Caitlin Clark's numbers at 19, 21, 24, and 25 games remain documented, and no shifting threshold can erase what she actually accomplished on the court. The box scores preserve those results, and her production cannot simply be rewritten afterward. What happened with the graphics, however, has now been brought into the open. If you followed this story and believe the numbers deserve to be judged fairly, drop your thoughts in the comments and share this with someone who follows the WNBA closely. Subscribe to Courtside Leaks for more breakdowns where the numbers tell a much bigger story, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.